next sharer, is me. What I'm sharing is not really an experience, but it's something that I've learned from the course I'm studying right now. I'm taking the course of Theology of the Body by Saint Pope John Paul II. So the topic is about suffering, and that was the topic in our course 3. Now we are in our course 4, but the course 3 is about the moral issues in our society. And part of that is the subject is about suffering. And my question to you is, who among you did not experience suffering or pain? So every one of us has suffered. So there was an apostolic letter from Saint John Paul. It's called the Salvifici Doloris, redemptive suffering. So one of our reflection paper that we needed to submit is what have you, the question is, what have you learned in course 3, and what particular subject, and also what the resources. So I chose that the resources, something teaching Dolores, it's about suffering, because as some of you may know, I'm also having an issue about my health, which is, I'm a bit suffering, but that's why I'm preparing myself to understand what is suffering really is all about. So I will read to you my reflection paper. I hope you will get something, or if not, that's okay. Thank you for listening. So, I am studying the Catholic teaching on suffering. Suffering is related to the moral issues in the society, such as euthanasia, abortion, gender identity, and others. So I'm pretty sure you're more aware of those topics: euthanasia, abortion, and gender identities. I understand that our brothers and sisters, this is my reflection paper that I've submitted. I understand that our brothers and sisters resort to euthanasia and abortion because most of us don't understand the reason and the value of suffering. Before studying the theology of the body, I had a different understanding about pain and suffering. Like most people's view, I also thought that suffering is a waste of energy. That is something that we should not be experiencing. So the resources that I'm using is the apostolic letter of St. John Paul, Salvifici Doloris. Through this apostolic letter, I have learned that suffering is not a waste of energy. That God uses this experience as a tool to teach us and to convert us. That is why whenever I experience challenges and trial right now, I don't pity myself or look for someone to blame. I now ask myself, what is God trying to teach me? Generally, we can say that most or almost always a human enters suffering with a typically human protest with the question why. So when we experience suffering, the conversation that we always ask is why. No? I think from the different sharings that we had is you have heard of why me? Why do I experience this? No? We cannot discover by our own human level the answer to the question why. But it's only through Christ's suffering on the cross that we can find answers to why we suffer. if we understand Jesus' suffering on the cross, it is only then we can find suffering, interior peace, and even spiritual joy. Suffering in itself is an experience of evil. And one of the things that I've learned in that verse is John Paul is saying in that letter is saying that in the Old Testament, when they say about suffering, they use the word evil because during those times there's no word for suffering. So when you see evil, even in the passage or in the experience of Job, they use evil, but that sometimes it pertains to suffering. Why do I experience this evil?
What color is this? Red.
Pain is useless in some ways, but this pain, Jesus transformed this to be productive by making suffering a sacrifice for love. When we share or participate our own suffering to the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. Later I will explain it to you how we can share. We may say that suffering is also a gateway of God's supernatural grace. In one of our sister had inferno when she learned that she's got this illness and she died. Sister Freda. One of our reflection is is it a blessing to know that you have this illness, or is it a curse? For me, this is now my reflection. When one learned that his days or her days are numbered due to illness or sickness, we may feel devastated. But if you look at the bigger picture, God is giving us a chance to be prepared. That suffering will remind us to cleanse our body, to cleanse our soul, and make the necessary actions. It may be availing the sacraments before we got really ill. So the sacrament of reconciliation, anointing of the sick, and of course the Holy Eucharist. That's the thing that we can prepare ourselves. Through suffering, we'll be able to share Christ's sacrifice. We can tell our friends the gospel of suffering. When we say gospel, sometimes it's the good news. So John Paul said in his that letter, every human who suffers, I think each and every one of us. That's why I asked who among you have experienced suffering. I think all of us. Every human who suffers are joined together, which makes the world of suffering. So there is what we call a world of suffering. This world of suffering is present in each and every one of us. And it is rooted within us. In fact, it is rooted in our heart. And as Jesus enters the world through incarnation, He also enters to that world of suffering. We can say that He enters into our heart. So He enters to the world of suffering, where that world of suffering is rooted in our hearts. So Jesus enters into our hearts. So in Matthew chapter 25, the Gospel say that this is about the last judgment when He separated the sheep from the goats. He said to the group of sheep, for I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty. You gave me a drink. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you cared for me, and I was in prison and you visited me. These very words are the evidence that Christ really enters to the world of suffering. Remember, the sick, the naked, the hungry, these are the traits or the representatives or of the people who are suffering. Hunger, sick, emptiness. So Jesus said, that is me. When you give to the one, to those who are sick, to those who are naked, to those who are thirsty, that is me. So, on the other hand, suffering also gave us, human beings, an opportunity to practice self-sacrifice, to feed the hungry, to care for the sick, to clothe the naked. These are our opportunity to serve God. So whenever, he said, whenever you did this to the one of the least of this, you did it to Jesus. So I thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. So I thought I want to share this so that at least we may have a hint of what suffering can help us. No? We can share our suffering through the suffering of the cross of Jesus Christ on the cross. No? On the cross. Just tell them when you feel pain, when you feel that you feel that you are suffering, join those pains and suffering to the pains and suffering of Jesus. Just say, Lord, I am offering this pain together with your pain for this brother that I am praying for his conversion or healing. Any pain, any suffering, join it with the suffering of Jesus, and it becomes a sacrifice. And that sacrifice that we can offer to the Lord. For that, may God be praised.